Hey, how's it going? It's MJ. I hope my connection's okay. I took a day off yesterday and never got around to posting anything. And weirdly, I'm like proud of myself for um, allowing myself just to be and play. And I'm hosting a retreat, and there's some children here. You were just in their own little world. Like they may be using an iPod, but like they're they're like on the sofa, just like like it reminds me of a course that I did about how when we're little, we really do inhabit our body. We just flow and scream and cry, be and play and laugh, and we really are in the ever present flow of our own beingness. And then through indoctrination and education and societal, family, environmental imprinting, we shapeshift. We begin to shapeshift and take on um, whatever beliefs are inherent within us, but then we take on the beliefs of the people and the things around us, right? And to me, a lot of this sort of like expansion or transformation or ascension or unlearning has been like like capturing that. So like feeling into that essence, being able to be free and play, like actually believing in my freedom and my playfulness, and actually believing in liberation and salvation and true abundance. And this is again like this sort of paradox of systematic thing where it's like you got to work, and it's hard work to survive, hard work to get by, and hard, just fucking hard, And for me, that just felt, it's like none of it connected to me. None of that really made sense. And it was ultimately by choosing, like, I just want life to be easy, that all of this stuff unfolded in rather miraculous ways and has led me and not in a conscious way that I thought or expected, certainly not in any kind of linear way, but it's my path has led me to a place where my physical reality is a beautiful manifestation, but not in a way that I consciously chose this is exactly how it's going to look, right? It's just manifest. And then it's only sometimes like actually actually once the manifestation is in full swing, sometimes it's not until then that we start to be like, oh, I've manifested all this. And here's the thing, we're manifesting our lives, and we're manifesting our lessons, and lessons, like we all have wonderful, beautiful lessons to learn from one another. And all it is at the end of the day is that you're responsible. You're responsible for your well being, you're responsible for your joy. And if we can either face one another in our joy and in our distortion, we can face one another, we can shine light, we can own up, we can fess up, we can be honest, or we can reject and blame and go back. But go back to our pattern, go back to our density, go back to where it feels safe. And in essence, go back to where we're protecting our ego, go back to where we're protecting our own density and illusion, right? Illusion of fear. So this just came through today as far as like arresting into abundance is like this, to me, the true abundant state is living in the flow, is a kind of perpetual fluid exchange. And in that fluidity, you start to realize that is how all of your most high and amazing dreams make manifest, is by relaxing, rest in peace. The more we can. However, resting, it can even get to that point where you can rest. It requires quite a lot of unraveling. It requires quite a lot of ownership of your shitty patterns, of what might be holding you down, of invisible forces that you actually might have in your awareness, just not consciously, that you can um, shine light onto, right? Our full inner and outer exploration is really what helps us to yoke that self-awareness. And it's really only through self-awareness that we can ascend, that we can grow, that we can expand, that we can create. that we can create from an empowered and divine way. Otherwise, we're not actually grounding any energy. We're not actually anchoring in any of that positive light energy. It just stays out there. It doesn't ground into the earthly experience. And that's been a huge wake-up call for me, as far as people that sit around and talk about ideas, believing that they're the right ones. They have the right idea. They're better than everybody else. So they talk about that. But then when it actually comes to owning their emotions, when it actually comes to taking responsibility for their actions, for their behavior, for their own thoughts, for their own emotions, they don't want to have to. They don't want to have to feel the shame or feel the guilt or feel whatever. So they just pretend like it has nothing to do with them, that the other person is bad, that the other person is this or is that. And then there's a block. Judgment is a block to bliss. So personally, it's like I might shine light somewhere, but if the person just is going to cut it off, if the person's just going to judge it, which essentially is judging their own light, right? It's judging their own power to heal by saying, fuck you. I don't want to heal. You're a bitch. You're not who I thought you were. So it's like an aspect of a hidden part of ourselves, like a hidden judgment that we can either consciously look at or not. And it's kind of accepting like every person is going to have their thing. And what's really, really been kind of hitting up against me recently is like the victim, people who play the victim. And I'm sure it hits me because like I recognize aspects of it because I grew up with aspects of it. And victimhood it's not good or bad or right or wrong. It's just a state of consciousness. It's a state of being. And it's quite widespread because of the enslavement system. So the enslavement system creates slaves, creates victims of circumstance, but actually the victims themselves have also co-created that circumstance. And so the victims ultimately need to look at their own victimhood and say, am I going to continue to perpetuate this? The issue with the victim is that they're constantly looking for someone to save them unconsciously. They feed their victimhood to the point that they actually think the feeding of the victimhood is their own empowerment. Oh, they'll do it for me. Well, that person will do it. That person will feel my feelings for me and that da da da. Then when people don't do their bidding, they just get rid of them and replace them with someone else. But again, that energetic stream never changes. The person might change, but kind of the same patterns will persist. The same, not sure, or the same energetic coding will persist even when people change. And I've noticed this in my own life in recreating certain situations. I've just been more aware of breaking through patterns as well. So often once I finish one cycle, if I've owned enough, I'll just move on to the next cycle. I don't have to go over certain issues anymore, like physical body liberation. Next phase for me is definitely about like sexual liberation and pleasure and stuff, because that's never been a priority for me, but I'm coming into that, right? And ultimately that has to do with how I've related to relationships. I've never felt worthy in a relationship. I've never actually felt like I deserve. And so for me, the last few playouts of relationships have just been showing myself how much I can give or how much I'll invest or how honest I am or how loyal I am, and still. And that, again, it's all representative of me letting go of my pain, my unworthiness, my undeservingness, and just loving people. And that's the thing, like people, because I'm stepping into my power, people often perceive that power as like, oh my God, she's a bitch, or she's being this, or she's being cold, or she's cutting them out, or she's da 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 da. And that's never how it is inside myself. Like inside, for my own process, I always have to find forgiveness to move forward. I always have to forgive and let go and like find compassion and understand that people do things because they're in pain and because they're hidden, and yet I am not going to tolerate my old patterns either. I don't want to feed people's victimhood. I don't want to be like, what's the word? An accomplice. I don't want to be an accomplice to people staying needy and staying disempowered and staying kind of manipulative. And this is why it's shady, guys, is that we all, oftentimes it's all about upholding this image of I'm a holy man, or I'm a nice guy, or I'm a good girl, or I'm a nice girl, or whatever. And it's because we are trying to uphold that projection to ourselves and the world that we lie. And we might not even realize we're lying, but we're lying to protect ourselves from a wound, right? Instead of just resting in the knowing that you are, resting in the peace and abundant flow that you are, because that is in essence just total unconditional acceptance for totality. Otherwise, we're manipulating and we end up getting in webs of drama. We get kind of in webs of drama because we're constantly seeking approval and seeking love outside of ourselves, which we will never find. We don't find it out there. We can only find it within ourselves. And the program is thick and convoluted. So we might think we're getting ahead or da da da, and then poof, something comes to hit us across the face because we're not in alignment with our source. We're only in alignment to the projections of other people. We're in alignment. We might be sitting pretty for a while because everybody's doing what we want them to do. But as soon as some person breaks out of that or breaks free from that, our world goes into a spin. For me, it's like I've lived the reverse of that. I've sort of perpetually been spinning, seeking, and being like, where is it? Where's the truth? Where's the love? Where's the compassion? And then I went down that way, it didn't work. I went down that way, it didn't work. I went down this way, da, da, da. Literally, the only thing that has worked is me just being here. And the more I rest in peace, the more I just love unconditionally myself and all. And no other person, this is what's so wild about people's own stories and judgments, is like literally I'll find love and peace and compassion. And like another person will be like, Molly doesn't even care. Molly doesn't da, da, da. Or Molly's this, Molly's that, Molly's that. And I'm just like, but that's not the truth of my existence. That's your projection of who you think I am based on the experience you attracted and pulled out of me. Same thing. I could say the same thing for anyone else that behaved in kind of a shitty, shady way. I pulled that behavior out of them because of my own projection. You know, if I've created a situation where someone betrays me, it's because I have fear of betrayal, or I've created betrayal in my own life. So I've betrayed myself. I've denied myself. I've been in distrust to myself. So clearly I'm going to create intimate relationships which create that purging, which create that healing from within myself. But unless I let myself feel the depth of my own pain, I can't change it. And that's often what I see. I see people deflecting, feeling their pain, and then spinning out back in patterns, just going back to the next relationship, just having the next sexual experience, just having the next, I'll just skip this and just get another job. I'll just stay really busy. I'll just find another partner. And often we don't even need to find it. We don't even realize how deep in we are into a pattern, into a karmic pattern, into a family pattern, whatever it is. It might just appear, and then we're like, "Oh, sweet, okay," like da 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 da, and then before we know it, we're in this pattern. But it's energetically, it's the same or worse. Usually, when we're in unconscious patterns, they usually get worse. You know, abusive patterns usually get worse until the victim almost dies. And then because the victim truly doesn't want to die, they wake up, right? And they wake up and empower themselves. And I've done similar things in my life, right? Like you keep going back, or you're doing something, you don't know why you're doing it, and you keep doing it, and you're like, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I doing this? Why am I behaving this way? Until it gets really bad, you know, until it's different. Bad or bottoming out is different for everybody. That's the truth. But yeah, either way, these patterns, these things, these unconscious things, this isolation, this fear, this whatever, just gets kind of more and more. It kind of squeezes us, pressurizes us to explode, to either to make a decision or to do a different thing or to go down a different path, or to step away from the situation. You know, working out retreats and stuff, that's often energetically, that's how people end up on retreats, is that there's their personal lives is like getting too much. There's too many plates that they're spinning, and they feel like they're going to drop all of them if they don't just take a break and have a look at all the plates, right? Wait, I have to figure out this plate's here, whatever. Or actually, I'm just going to put all of them down and I'm going to sit back and I'm going to regroup. And then I'm going to figure out which one is the most important one to pick up first. The thing is, we don't realize how much power we actually have. The true creative abundant flow comes from a state of ease. And yet nobody around us in the essence Everybody else was like, you can't be that relaxed. You can't be that easy. Your life can't be that good. You can't be that talented. You can't be that successful. You're going to have to be small and life's going to have to be hard. Like it was for us, like it was for them, like it is for them. That's ultimately what the frightened little human ego does to one another, which is why more and more of us need to talk about this, because I can honestly say when you're stepping into your power, people will resist you. People will want to fight you. I've had actual like good friends. Like once I just say, actually, I'm not sure if I want to do this way anymore. They're just like, suddenly this other side comes up, and they would have the same thing for me because I'm not doing all the people pleasing, lovely thing. They're suddenly, wait, what? Who are you telling me what to do? You're supposed to just do my bidding. You're supposed to just do what I tell you to do. And then I go, actually, no, thank you. I don't want to do it like that. And that's where there, again, the other connection leans in and people get kind of stronger, which I've had with some of my lifelong friends where there's like a ruffle, but then it brings us closer together and it evolves the relationship versus one steps into power and the other one just goes, ah, no, you can't do that. And then you ultimately just say, I love you. Like I do. And that's the thing of like, I'll have genuine fucking love for people. But if they're just attacking or if they're just like telling me what to do and it doesn't feel good, I have the power just to say no. And that I know that sounds weird because I would stay in those situations out of fear. I would stay in those situations because I didn't know what else was on the other side or because who knows? Ultimately, we always stay in shit because we're frightened of what's not shit. And yet I can honestly say if you step out, you won't go back to the shit. Fortunately, that's the good thing. If you keep moving up, if you keep facing your fears, if you keep doing things that frighten you, eventually, you'll get the hang of this stuff. I'm more just like in the flow and in the present, which is why this share, I'm like, honestly, just rest. I know, but it's been this practicing rest in peace has like been really, really many years in the practice. And it continues to embody, it continues to kind of be real in my body, just because I feel at ease most of the time. And then I'm meeting more and more people who are like, oh God, you feel fantastic. I'm like, I know. Even when like it's not all good or whatever, like I might be sitting in different streams and having to let go or having to vision or having to work something out, but it's all like easy as in because it's me and I chose me and I know me, so I can work with me in a way that works for me, and no one else can tell me how to do that, just like I can't really tell nobody else how to do it other than just share my experience. I don't know the fucking truth. I just like know that I've done something inside my own awareness that has helped me live a happier life. I love my life. I'm sometimes like amazed. I'm like, yeah, I do. I actually do. I love what I do. I make good money doing something I love, and I'm proud of myself. And I've gotten through some really intense fucking shit over the last couple of years. Like, not to mention my whole life, like all of us, but the last couple of years as an adult and like a professional, and then all this shit happening where I'm like, I could have easily given up. I could have easily said, oh, I'll just go back to like what I was doing before it was safe, And yet, no, that's not me. I wouldn't have bought a fucking one-way ticket to England if I was destined to just go back to like my own town. And not that there's anything wrong with that if that's the truth of who you are and that's in alignment. But for me, the greater vision has always been like all to love, healing, not even, I don't even like the word like, but just all to love, epic, fun, new paradigm centers where people are creative, where people heal, where people meditate, where people share, where people live on the land and people look after animals and creatures and look after one another, but also look after themselves because it's one, right? Recognition. So you guys, I hope you're awesome and you're having a good day and all that. I hope the connection's been aight today. It's another glorious day. Like, thank God spring has arrived because the winter was I think I'm going to take a holiday in July as well. Have a great day, you guys. Peace out.